Hi, and welcome to our second show of Heal Yourself Gwinnett. I'm your host, Dr. Lauren Millman, owner and upper cervical chiropractor of Swanee Spine and Wellness Center. Heal Yourself Gwinnett records every last Wednesday of the month. I am here today with my co-producers, Mike and Trey, of Business Radio X. We are broadcasting out of the Subaru of Gwinnett studio. Hi, guys.
Hello, how are you?
I'm phenomenal.
And Trey is waving to you.
Trey is waving,
he
sorry.
He doesn't have a microphone, so he's waving.
Yeah, there he is. So I got to give a shout out to the guy, even though we don't give him a mic to speak. So he's over there. So our second show, we're excited. I've been pumped for the second one. We had a little bit of a problem on the first show, Mike.
We did?
We had a little bit of a problem, and I think it's going to be okay today. The first show, for those of you who were listening, I gave Mike, to back up, Mike is our tweeter, has been our tweeter of our show, and he just couldn't keep up.
You're giving so many great nuggets, there's no way. So I have brought in reinforcements.
Yeah.
We have Z in the room here. Z's going to be tweeting as well, so we got two people tweeting to try to keep up with you.
Is that going to be enough?
We'll let you know at the end of the show.
Okay. All right.
Just
good.
Quit giving so much great advice.
I don't think I can do that. That would be against everything I stand for.
All right.
So, if you guys, as you're listening, you can follow us on Twitter. My handle is at Swanee Spine, and you can also follow it's Gwinnett Business Radio. What you're tweeting live from?
We are at Gwinnett Radio X.
Gwinnett Radio X. There we go. So be following our tweets as we're going on. So, and we're in October. It's October. It's a fun time. We're coming into Halloween. I don't have to tell you, I have a really great costume for Saturday. I think I might pull out an old Oompa Loompa costume. Yeah, I won awards for that. I did. So you might see pictures of an Oompa Loompa on Saturday. But you know what? October is also, we're seeing a lot of pink around us. It's Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And, now is as good of a time as any to have the conversation about health and healing and wellness. Right now in October, with all this pink ribbon promotion going on right now in regards to breast cancer awareness. For women this time of year, what we're seeing is there's that big push with the pink ribbons for women to get that routine mammogram, to get that, encouraging that routine screening to detect cancer early. And it's been a great promotion, or at least raising the awareness for health and for women's health. It seems like a great idea. So one of the things that I see in our practice is, suppose, I'm just going to give you a hypothetical situation. Suppose you go in for, if you're a woman, you go in for your routine screening, and God willing, after they get the results back, the results are negative. And then what does your doctor tell you at that point?
And negative is good.
Negative would be good.
Okay.
In that scenario, negative is
Yes.
good. Yes, right. So exactly. What does your doctor tell you? Who says, well, if it's negative, they say, well, I'm excited for you. We'll see you next time at your next appointment. So many times there's little to no conversation in between those visits, or, doc, what do I do to make sure to keep from getting cancer? What are we doing then? So, in this scenario, like so many, one of the problems in our healthcare system is that you can't get into the system unless you're sick. And that's a problem, because I would actually say that we are in, a disease management system. I think that's our country right now, I think we shine when it comes to, crisis care, when things are really bad and to keeping you alive. I think we shine there. But when it comes to that time and those moments in between crisis care, I think, I think maybe at some times we can drop the ball, and I'll give you some statistics here in a second. So, you see in that scenario that I mentioned to you earlier about, the breast cancer awareness or routine mammograms, the emphasis is on early detection, and that's not the same as prevention. It's two very different things. The idea is let's catch it early so we can make sure it doesn't become a problem. And the conversation I'm having with women in my office is, well, aside from trying to catch it early, what if we don't even have it come on at all? Very different conversation, I think, that a lot of people are having out there. So, we're in a sick care model where if you're doing what everyone is doing around you, then you can kind of expect to kind of get those same results. So this managing disease and dysfunction is not the same as getting people well. It's actually two very different things. So, our country, just a couple of things that really stand out to me and where my heart was kind of coming from is, according to the World Health Organization, our country, United States, we spend more on healthcare per capita than any other nation. That's incredible. If we're getting incredible results, then I think that's a great stat. The problem is, in a different study, according to the National Institute of Health, the United States was close to or at the bottom in almost every category from this study, including life expectancy, chronic disease, heart and lung disease, injuries, and disability rates. So we're paying more, but yet we're at the bottom of the list in all these other categories. So I don't think that we're really getting our bang for our buck. We're not getting what we're paying for. So, if drugs were the solution, I think we would be the healthiest country. You think we should be the healthiest country. So something's not jiving. Something's not quite right. So if I can offer my listeners, one piece of advice, it would be to ask yourself, and this is kind of where I come from, is, well, what's your health strategy? What's your prevention strategy? What's your wellness strategy? What do you do in between times of being sick that keep you well? Or are you just always playing catch up from being sick? So I kind of think that our culture, I think we've got it wrong. Our culture's view of health and lifestyle is nothing short of being upside down and backwards. Our food, our behaviors, and toxins get us sick, but then I think our system keeps us locked in and keeps us sick. So that's so we have a problem, and it takes something. We needed to make a change, or we're going to keep going down the same path. The definition of insanity: doing the same thing over and over, except expecting a different result. Right, Mike?
I know that one well. Yes.
You know that one well. Yeah. So what's your prevention strategy? What do you do in between crisis management? If you don't have a strategy, if you don't have a plan for your health and for your family's health, how do you expect to stay well? So it's kind of like a savings plan. So if you don't have a plan to save money or a retirement plan, then how do you expect to save money? So if you look at your health as a bank account, and healthy choices are like deposits, and poor choices are like withdrawals, then look at, if you can take a snapshot of your life, or maybe what you've done for the last, let's even say 2 months, what would that bank account look like? So, Mike, despite what you may already think,
I'd be overdrawn.
I know. Despite what you think, I don't have all the answers. You could really run with that.
Wait a minute. You don't have all the answers.
I don't have all the answers. Most of the answers. My husband would say that I probably have most of the answers.
But you know what?
He's not here to defend himself.
If somebody would have come in here and say they did have all the answers, I'd be a little weary of them.
You'd throw something at him?
I wouldn't do that, but it's like, no, nobody has all the answers.
Except you would expect that I probably might be that person. But I'll rest assured, I don't have everything. I have some. At least in regards to health, I think that I have some. And for me, and what we talk about in our philosophy is, I think the answer to this question, I think it starts with self-responsibility. I think it starts for, viewing things a little differently. Being proactive in your health as opposed to being reactive. And that dependency model and dependency in that regards. I believe in being an active participant and not relying on others. The biggest thing, and I'm going to put an asterisk by this. Here's for the camera, asterisk by this. Build a wellness team around you. Building that team around you. So, again, look at what's going around you. Look at your family, your elders. And if you follow suit, like those around you and in your circle and your tribe, and expect to be exactly right where they are. As we're talking about getting well, I think to how I see it and how I can simplify it, because I'm about trying to simplify and educate things as best as I can, because that's how I understand information. So I think when in regards to getting well, or I'll take a spin on this, when it comes to getting sick, I think what makes someone sick or not well is either the body having too much or too little of something. Either the body is underproducing or overproducing. Think of it like that. And that's why, there's so many times people can be doing some things well, but yet they still might be sick. They can say, I'm doing these things well. Doc, why am I still sick? And so look at it like this. So if for an example, if you have too little of something, that could be in the form of, and any one of these things really can lead you down to being sick. Proper nutrition. If you don't have good nutrition or full nutrition, if your body isn't able to utilize the full properly. We already are in a system right now that, at least the food industry, that we are in nutrient dense. We produce nutrient dense food, poor foods. And, with that, we need to supplement. Our bodies crave certain things, and we don't necessarily get those nutrients sometimes. So then you have to supplement, vitamins and minerals. The other thing that our body might have too little of is movement and activity. That's a whole other conversation in of itself right there. If your body is not getting adequate blood flow and oxygen, then that can lead to another array of problems. And here's where what I do comes in is proper alignment. If you are not structurally aligned and properly aligned, then that puts an enormous amount of stress on your body. I'll talk a little bit about more on that in a second. If you have too little energy, if you don't have a clean and supportive environment, whether physically, emotionally, mentally, positive, empowering thoughts and beliefs, if you have too little of these things, it can lead you down to being sick, or a combination of having too little of those things. On the flip side, having too much, if you're exposed to too much, chemicals, toxins, if, between the products that we use, women use a lot of products, between, makeup or skincare, hair products, you name it. A lot of times there are toxins in those things. It can be exhausting as a woman researching things around you to make sure that you're not further poisoning yourself. It's almost it can take all my energy at times to do that. So I try to bring the things that I do to the table at times. Household cleaners, your foods can be absolutely toxic for you if you're not watching what you're eating. If you have too much negativity, thoughts, physical people, the people around you, poor movement or the wrong kind of movement. If you're working out incorrectly, and I mean that you can actually be causing more stress to your body in those ways. Or, what if you're the type of person to micro trauma? And what I mean by that is if you're someone who, if you're not getting enough movement and you're sitting at a desk all day and you're getting, you're having too much of that trauma and that stress from sitting down all day, that causes stress to your body. So what's your plan? What's your strategy? What's your strategy, Mike? That's rhetorical. We won't answer. You don't have to answer.
Thank you, because I don't have the answer.
You don't have the answer?
That's why I listen to Heal Yourself Gwinnett.
That's why you listen? Okay.
To get the answers. Even though you don't know all the answers, you do have a lot of answers.
I do have some. I do. Now I'm blushing.
I've been tweeting some of this good stuff.
Trey, has he been keeping up?
We got a backup.
We got a back. You okay over there? Back?
Z's already tweeted 3 or 4 things. I've tweeted 2 things. You're keeping us busy.
Okay. All right. Well,
Stop it. Quit giving such good information.
So, Mike, you know this part, though. I'm going to tell you something that you do know. You ready?
This shouldn't take long.
So, as a chiropractor, and I'm an upper cervical specific chiropractor, I specialize in the structural correction of this equation. I look at the body to make sure that it is in proper alignment so that we take off as much stress to the body as we can so that it can function as it needs to. You knew that, right?
Yes.
Yeah, very good. So structural changes to the body.
I agree with everything you say.
You like that?
Yes.
Good. Structural changes to the body alter the function of your central nervous system. That's the foundation of everything that I do.
I heard that on the first show you did.
Yeah. I have a tendency to repeat myself sometimes.
That's good.
Okay.
Sometimes people need to hear things more than once to understand that it's true.
I've heard that. Structural changes, as they alter the central nervous system, it can also alter the immune system, your endocrine system, reproductive, gastrointestinal, cardiovascular. Every system is under control of the central nervous system. Proper nervous system function and proper structural alignment is essential for good health. It's absolutely the foundation, and that's where I come from. There is no body process that is not under control of the nervous system. Chiropractic is just one component of this larger picture that I'm talking about, and the one component of the lifestyle enhancement strategy. So chiropractic isn't the end-all be-all, but it is a massive piece to that equation. Not only if you are in that crisis care, and if most people think that chiropractic can be a part of just whenever people are in pain, but there's also a whole larger piece to even whenever you're not in crisis care to keep your body functioning well. Again, a part of that overall equation. I think where we can make the change in our system, in our society, is to change our view of healthcare, and to put a wellness team around you, a team that specializes in the components to this bigger picture. This team can include that disease or problem management component. In fact, I would encourage that, but they're just not the only player on the team. They're a part of that strategy. In between times of crisis care or sickness, what's your plan to working and getting well? What's your plan to getting stronger and healthier? That's when you make headway in your health, is when you're well, what you further do during those times. I look at, for me and my family, this type of strategy, it's the core value, of our family. It's where I want us to start from. It's not the length of your life, but the quality of life in those years. So this is how I think of it in our office, and this is how I think of it in what I speak with my patients, is if you knew that you were going to live 20, 30, 40, or even 50 more years, regardless of your health situation, whether that was good health or bad health, if you knew you would live 20, 30, 40, 50 more years, how would you want to live out those years? Would you want to live them out ill, sick, and hurting, or would you want to be doing everything that you could in those times just to stay as well as you could if you knew you were going to live that longer? So what's your strategy? We're leaving you with what's your strategy. This has been Heal Yourself, Gwinnett. I am your host, Dr. Lauren Millman of Swanee Spine and Wellness Center. You can find us on Facebook at, obviously, Swanee Spine and Wellness Center, and also on Twitter at Swanee Spine. Join us every last Wednesday of the month on Business Radio X. This is Lauren Millman signing off. Have a healthy day.